Hi, welcome to NDE TV. I'm Peggy Robinson. Today's guest is Tina Thomas, and she has had a multitude of experiences. So, Tina, would you like to give us some background on how this all started?
Sure. I was born with birth defects. One caused a heart palpitation disorder, so my heart would stop. I would leave my body. And the other is I have a esophagus that's very narrow and small. It runs in the family. All the girls in the family have had it. And they've had surgery to correct it. I haven't had the surgery. I don't want the surgery, but it causes severe sleep apnea. And so when I've had sleep tests done, I stop breathing for 2 minutes at a time, up to 12 times per hour. So having near-death experiences since the time I can remember, out-of-body experiences since the time I can remember, just normal, just how I am.
Before you go on, when did you realize not everybody does this, or did you know that?
You know, I never talked about it really with anybody. I just started getting into near-death experience, like reading the books with my dad. I was adopted. My dad found me when I was 30, and he loved near-death experience books. But even reading those with him, I didn't understand that's what I was experiencing. So I never really told anybody.
I understand.
So yeah, I just thought, I just thought I was different. And I've always felt that way, like there's just something a little bit off about me or different or whatever. So when I started listening to the podcasts on near-death experience, then I started to realize, okay, these experiences aren't exclusive to me. So then I realized, okay, I'm not the only one. And so some of them, they're all different kinds. Some of them I would just simply float above my body and watch my body being revived. Or my mom, she married a very abusive person. And when I would have my heart would just give out and I would just leave my body, it would enrage him. And so I'd watch myself being, physically punished, abused, but I didn't feel it and I didn't have any emotions about it.
Did you stop it? Did you stop from feeling it? Was like a choice, like I refuse, or?
I just didn't feel anything.
Okay. Because I put up a wall with mine. I was like, I'm not going to feel this. They're not going to get that over me. I refuse to feel it.
Yeah.
And I would put up a wall.
I really just didn't feel it. No thought about it. And then other times the near-death experience would be, I would walk down the street. This is when I was little. I would walk down the street because I would get bored of watching people trying to revive me. It wasn't interesting. And so I would want to explore. And so I'd walk down the street and look in the windows, and I saw a lady washing her dishes. And it was the most fascinating thing. And I just stood there for a really long time watching her wash her dishes. And then I was sucked back into my body again. And then it happened again when I was probably 10 years old. And again, I went into this woman's house. We were on vacation visiting friends. And there
now, were you doing these during abuse? Leaving your body? Or
no, this one, something happened. We were playing football out in the yard, and something happened. I'm not sure, I don't remember, but I know it was painful. And I was just knocked out of my body. The wind got knocked out of me. And so I went inside the house, and the lady, Mrs. Shepherd, she was in there washing dishes. And I just stood there next to her, watching her wash the dishes. And so then when I was sucked back in my body, I jumped up and ran in the house to see if she was washing her dishes. And she was.
When you were watching her, was you like at the ceiling? What vantage point do you know?
I was standing right next to her, like as if I was the same height as I was as a child. And I was just right there, like to her shoulder. Just
Could you hear
there.
her thoughts or feel her emotions or anything? It was just like a physical experience, only it wasn't.
Yeah, and I was completely fascinated with it. It was like the most interesting thing in the world. And I hate washing dishes.
Me too.
I have no idea why in the spirit, that's so interesting to me, because I guess we don't have dirty dishes over there, thank God.
Well, you were talking about how you really didn't know that's what happened to you, even though you're starting to read the books and watch podcasts, you didn't connect. Yeah. And you saying that made me think, this is like, say, diabetes. You need a doctor to say, you meet all the criteria, we did the test, and this is your diagnosis. We don't have that with near-death experiences. No. We have to self-diagnose.
Yeah.
And it doesn't happen like, well, maybe it does for some people, like, wow, come back. That was a near-death experience, and I know who to contact, and I know everything about. No, usually no.
Yeah.
Especially when you start as a child and it's so ingrained in you as part of your personality and just who you are. Nothing triggers, oh, this is so different. What's going on? No, because it's always been there. I get it.
Yeah.
So do you want to start at the beginning? Like, was there an NDE when you were a baby, or was it in a body, or?
Well, there were lots of them. I guess I'll just go into the types that I've had. There were.
Okay.
When I was little, I would just watch my parents reviving me, and then as I got older, they got a divorce, so my mom got remarried, and so then I would witness abuse going on. That was very painful. But when I would leave my body, I wouldn't feel anything. And then as
so these would be little quick things. You were just like out and watch yourself, and then come back in. I mean,
yeah.
Okay.
One of them. So some of them I would go live other lifetimes during. And the first one I remember, I was quite young, maybe 3 or 4. I was a Native American, and I was a man, and I was in a battle, and it was ferocious, and I didn't have any clothes on. I was fighting naked, and everybody was naked. We were all fighting naked.
Oh my! It probably did.
Really weird. And then I got a hatchet into the middle of my back, and at that point, when I left my body, I came out from behind, so I could see what happened to my body, and I knew that I was dying.
Your body as an American Indian naked man.
Naked man, yeah.
It was my body.
Yeah. So it was confusing to me as a little girl. I was quite sure that I was a male. I didn't realize I was a little girl till I was about 7 or 8 years old.
Because of that, or just it felt like?
Oh, I just felt I felt like a warrior in my heart, and it's just really weird. But I'm not. It's not that I was gay or I wanted to be a man, because I'm very happy to be a woman, and I like men. But
I don't know why this little clip of some movie I seen a long time ago, they went, are there any sexual problems? I don't know where that show comes from. It's just there. People in my age group would probably get it, but I'm sure you don't.
Well, my angels have joked a lot with me about human sexuality.
Really?
It's yeah, they're like because one time this one came to me and well, he didn't look like an angel. He just looked like a beach bum with long dreadlocks, and his name was Francis. But when he first sat on my bed, I'm like, oh my, is he here to rape me? And he's like, oh God, here we go again. You know, like that's the first thing that comes to a human mind is like if it's a good looking angel, hey, are we gonna hook up? Or if you know what I mean? It was just funny, but yeah, that one he he waited for me to be finished with all my human thoughts. And then he asked me to walk in. He didn't ask me, but like telepathically, to walk into my closet with me. And I got up and walked into the closet with him, and he took me into a tunnel. And we were traveling so fast, super fast, and it almost like what you would think it would be like to travel through an umbilical cord with all the colorful and light coming through. And we just stopped off in different places in time. One of the places we went, we dipped down into the ocean and swam through this. We didn't swim, but we were like going through this ocean, and I was like, "Oh, I hope this doesn't turn into a nightmare because I'm terrified of deep water." But when we came up, it was towards the shore, and there was I don't know what you call it, a long neck dinosaur, and on the edge, and it was eating food, and his jaw dropped. He saw me. And he stopped eating, and we recognized each other, like I see you, you see me. It was very weird. And then he took me to places in the future, showed me my life at different points in time, and that was it. Then I was brought back into my body.
Was the time where you were abducted, was that the most interesting, profound, I'm not sure what word to use, experience you've had?
I've had I had one near death experience that changed my life. It was very profound. And then I had two. One was good, one was not so good. And then the abduction, everything, it's like there's this time where after the abduction is a whole new me, a whole new Tina. Okay. I went through a whole lot in my life, as you probably gathered. So at the point where the abduction happened, I was in the middle of my addiction to drugs and alcohol. And I had been kind of befriended by some neighbors, and got to know them over the course of a year. I liked stopping off and talking to him while I walked my dog. And he started asking me, because I've gone to wilderness survival camp, and I've studied herbology and things like that interest me. And he was a prepper, and he was with a group of friends who had bought property way out in the middle of the high desert on the border of Utah and Nevada. And he kept asking me if I wanted to go out there and see this property. I didn't want to. I didn't have a good feeling about it. I didn't have any interest. And he's like, well, just come meet everybody. And so I met them at a Mexican restaurant, and we had food and drinks together, and they were showing me blueprints and plans and just trying to talk me into going out there with them. And so I actually went through a really bad breakup during that time. And I thought, maybe this will get my mind off of it. I'll go out there. So I went out there with these people. They had a lot of money. They had an RV. They had racing quads. They had a Suburban. They rented a big long trailer and put a backhoe on it to take out there. They told me that was for, they were going to make a road once we got out there. So we got out there, and it's basically 3 adult males, and one of them had their wife there, and there was 2 children, a 12-year-old and a 16-year-old, 12-year-old boy and a 16-year-old girl. So we spent the day just tooling around the desert. I like looking for rocks and crystals, and and they were making a road. They made a road into the center of the property, and then where the road ended, they dug this huge pit. And so on our way out there, while we were driving out there, I kept seeing these campers like off the back of trucks. And I'm like, that's weird. I wonder why people are putting their campers out here. And the little boy started laughing. He goes, I'll tell you tonight. And I'm like, okay. So it started getting towards evening, and I realized that they hadn't brought any firewood. And this is in February. We're winter camping. They brought no firewood. So I start gathering all this sage that they had cut. There's nothing out there. The tallest thing is this sagebrush, and it's about 2 feet tall. And the land is flat for as far as the eyes can see. For miles and miles, nothing but flat land and the sagebrush. So I start gathering all this sagebrush because we're going to need something to burn to keep warm through the night. I'm sleeping in a tent, you know. So I'm doing that, and we start building this fire in the pit. And that's when the little boy starts telling me what those camper shells were. First, he asked me, do you know any scary campfire stories? And I said, well, you know, I don't really want to scare you. And I think I started talking to him about how I'd had sleep paralysis, and that was probably one of the scariest things I've experienced. And then he starts telling me about horrific satanic murder. And he tells me 3 super graphic stories of different ways to murder somebody.
How old is this kid?
12. And I looked over at his dad and I said, where is this 12-year-old hearing things like this? I couldn't even fathom. They were so dark and so evil and horrific, these stories. And he kind of sneered at me, and he goes, on the dark net, on the deep web. And I'm like, what? And I guess that's where you can watch like smut films, people being murdered, and that's where you can do like human trafficking and all, I don't know, all the stuff that you can't do on the regular internet. This is what he had his 12-year-old doing. And I said, you know, I'm really triggered, and I'd really like him to stop. I don't want to hear anymore, because now the sun's down, and my nerves are rattled by these stories. It's too much. And his dad just started laughing, and everybody there started laughing. And he said he's not going to stop. And he just keeps following me around, because I get up and leave. I start walking around the camp just to get away from him, but he
Are you
followed
the
me
only
everywhere I
woman
went.
there?
No, there was one other woman there, and I went over to stand by her because I thought, well, she'll support me. But the thing is this group of people knew that I was being treated for PTSD, and they knew that I was triggered. I told them, I was very clear. I was communicating everything that I was feeling with them. But she had no compassion for me whatsoever. And then I sat back down and I turned to the little boy and I said, so basically what you're telling me, why you are telling me these stories is because you guys brought me out here to kill me, and you're going to eat me. You're going to cannibalize me. And I get to pick from one of those three ways how you're going to kill me. And he goes, yes, exactly. Finally, you understand. But I'm not going to kill your dog. I'm not going to eat your dog because I like him. All day, this little boy, who I thought was just so cute, he'd been trying to make friends with my little dog, his little 5-pound mini pincher, who I brought with me out there to go camping. All day, he'd been trying to make friends with them because he planned on taking that dog and keeping him for himself after they killed me. And I just couldn't believe it. I was in so much denial. I thought, there is no way that there are people like this. And they were.
The moment you realize you're screwed.
Oh, it was beyond comprehension. And basically, they told me they were in a cult. They're a Freemason cult. And this was during the time of the Burns, Oregon incident. I don't know if you remember that. But they said that up in Burns, Oregon, there was Freemason Lodge number 97, and that they had just done their first open air, what do you call it, sacrifice. And now they were going to sacrifice me.
Freemasons.
Yeah.
Satanic. I didn't know.
I had no clue either. Trust me. I'm sitting there going, you guys are fucking with, sorry, you're screwing with me. Please just tell me you're joking. And I kept thinking, this is just a campfire story that's gotten out of control. They're just trying to scare me. But then the two older guys, the one who was my neighbor, they start talking about the last guy that they brought out there and did this to. And that he thought that a bullet to the head was a good idea. And they were laughing. They were laughing so hard. And I just thought, I get it. The bullet to the head is what I'm going to choose. And I was going to ask them to do it on where my dog couldn't see it happen. And so they're like, well, you think about it, think about what you're going to choose. I walked over to my tent and I was just petrified, absolutely terrified. And I dropped to my knees in the dirt. And up to this point, I really had no belief in God anymore. Was pretty much atheist. And I said, God, if you're real and you have a miracle for me, like now would be the time, because I don't see any way out of this at all. And I was so frozen in fear. I could barely move. And I felt this overbearing sense of like exhaustion, complete physical exhaustion. And I was shaking so terribly hard. And I just got this sense like I'm a 3-year-old little child, and I gathered up my blanket that I brought out there, and I gathered up my pillow and my little dog, and I climbed in the back seat of one of the Suburbans just so I could have a moment alone. I thought, I didn't expect I could sleep in there and be safe. I just thought I just need a moment, my last moments of my life. I couldn't believe my life was going to end this way. And my poor little dog, well, you know, I was very attached. But before my head could hit the pillow, there was something in my hand, and I realized it was a little pen light, like a laser light, and I had turned it on, and it's like something had come into my body, some kind of knowing, some kind of movement, because I didn't have any power to move on my own. Pushed the pen light on, and it shone up to the front seat onto the ignition where the keys were in the ignition.
Do you know where that pen light come from?
No, I have no idea how that got in my hand, because I was completely out of it. And before I knew it, I had jumped into the front seat and locked the doors, started this Suburban, which had this really long trailer attached to the back of it.
Oh. Not a quiet getaway.
Not a good, the worst getaway car ever. You know, and if I had put it in reverse, I could have killed all those people because they were sitting right behind.
Dang.
You know, I could have run them all over. They would have went into the pit. That pit that they dug for me was for me. Like that pit, they said it was for a fire, but when they actually started digging seats out inside of it, it was a huge pit. And that's where they told me they were going to put me. And they weren't going to kill me and just be over with it. They were going to do it slowly. and it would have, and they didn't bring any food. The only food that was there was the food I brought for myself. And when I realized that the kids could hardly wait. So I was like letting them eat my food, and I'm like, this is really weird. Why did we come on a 3-day camping trip with no food?
But there were other kids there too with these men.
There was the 16-year-old girl and the 12-year-old boy. And what was interesting about that little boy was when he first started telling me these stories, I was like, God, this kid, he could be like the host of the Twilight Zone. He was so well versed and well spoken. And when I looked at him, when he told me, yes, we plan on killing you and eating you out here, his eyes turned black. And that just terrified me. I was terrified of this little boy at that point. But anyway, so when I realized they hadn't brought any food, I realized they're telling me the truth. What they're telling me is what they mean. They plan on eating me. They didn't bring any food. I was the food.
Wow.
And it was just so hard to accept this situation. I just wanted it to go away. I just wanted to be home. I didn't want to be there anymore. So I get in their Suburban, and I just tear off across the desert. Now when we had come in there, it had been maybe a half hour or more down many different dirt roads. And I couldn't find my way to the highway. I knew which direction it was. I could see the lights off in the distance, but it was like 15 miles away. And I just couldn't find my way there. And I ended up jackknifing the trailer and the Suburban, getting stuck in some sand. And When that happened, the guys one had jumped on one of the racing quads, and the others were in a truck. And they
How far had you gotten?
Gosh, I don't know. I had been driving for maybe 30 minutes.
And they followed you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I knew that they had a high-powered rifle with a scope because they'd been shooting it earlier in the day. And so when I was driving, I was just kind of like driving serpentine so that they couldn't get in front of me or next to me on the road, because they tried. And it's very sandy out there, so they weren't going to like try to drive in the sand and come get me. And they had the spotlight on me. So I kind of like sank down in my chair and tried to make myself like a really small target so they couldn't shoot me. But when I jackknifed, the guy who owned the Suburban had an extra set of keys, and he jumped into the front seat with me and pulled the keys out of the ignition. And I just grabbed my dog and jumped out. And at that point, I was just begging him, like, can you please take me home now? Please. And the guy that was on the racing quad said, no, bitch, now you're going to die. I'm going to run you over. And
you're the bitch.
Crazy bitch. I was the crazy bitch.
Yeah, you're the crazy bitch in this scenario.
Yeah. Which in my mind, I'm like, am I crazy? Is this really happening? Am I making this up in my mind? But I wasn't. There again, he told me this is when I was gonna die, and so
he reiterated that.
Yeah, you're gonna die. You are gonna die now. And so and about this time, it's about 2:00 in the morning in the dead of winter. And I'm holding my little dog under my armpit like he's a football. And I just start running. And by the grace of God, I was wearing all black. My down coat was black. My boots were black. Everything was black. And I'd learned it in wilderness survival school to stick to the shadows. And so that's what I was doing. But still, you can't outrun a quad and a truck with a spotlight. And one of them was on foot right behind me. He was so close to me that I could smell his breath. And I was in horrible pain. I don't know what happened. I had a broken pelvis, but I don't remember at all what happened to me. I don't know how that happened. Even to this day, I have no memory of how I broke my pelvis, but something happened to me.
I wonder when you jumped over the seat, you were in that state of, I don't know, I'm just guessing.
Well, no, I didn't jump over the seat.
Okay.
Maybe, yeah. When I jumped from the back to the front, that could be, yeah. Something happened to me, and I don't know what it was, but the doctor at the emergency room said it could have been because of how fast and how hard I was running. I could have had a stress fracture.
Oh my.
Yeah. So
who knows?
So I'm like running
and in pain.
In pain. There's nowhere to hide. I don't know what else to do but run. And the voice inside me said run, and I'm like, yeah, but I don't feel like running. I'm exhausted and I'm in pain. But something was in me moving my legs, and I ran like the wind. And while I was running, I started talking to God again. I said, why is this happening? Why is this happening to me? And I clearly heard a voice reply, you will never doubt me again after this.
Chills.
Yeah, exactly. And after a while, I probably ran, I don't know, it felt like a long time. I'm not sure how long I ran, but the earth started to go down into a depression area, and I saw a junkyard off in the distance. And as I got closer to it, it had about a 4-foot tall barbed wire fence around it. And at the angle I was coming, I could see there was some type of shed there. And I thought, because this guy was right on my back, like I was almost within arm's reach of him grabbing me. That's how close this chase was. I mean, this was a chase. 3 grown men chasing me. And I thought, I have a matter of seconds to get over that fence and run around this shed where they would lose sight of me for a few seconds. And if I could get somewhere and hide in that amount of time, I'd be okay. But I didn't know how I was going to get over this fence because it's 4 feet tall, and I have this dog, and I'm thinking, do I throw the dog over the fence and then just catapult? And I don't, that's the last thing I remember. Suddenly I'm on the other side of the fence, and I can hear the guy that was right behind me, like screaming. He was terrified of something. Something happened to him. I'm not sure what, but he was terrified. He was screaming, she just disappeared right in front of me. She just disappeared. Evaporated. And when that happened and I was on the other side of the fence, I saw a pickup truck, and I ran to it, jumped into the bed of it, and just laid down flat. And I could see the searchlight, but it never saw me. They never saw me again in there. And at that point is when I started to realize how I was feeling. I wasn't scared anymore. I was filled with complete bliss. Every cell in my body was just alive and vibrating at a very, very high frequency. I was just filled with the joy of God. And it was hard not to laugh, listening to them looking for me. And I thought, God is delivering me. And you bet I will never, ever doubt him, ever, after all this. So
I'm thinking time shift. I don't know, because it seems like throughout your life there was these time shifts, and physically where you were shifts, which I don't know what that's called, like by location, like, or you're in another place, you know, in the kitchen, or you're here, you're there. Yeah. And in these time periods, you're back in this, you know, in the NDE body, and then you went through that tunnel and you were in these different times. And it seems like, because that's the way it is on the other side. It's not like here, we have to walk in one room, the other, and we got to go through the calendar to get through to the next year. Everything is possible. And you went through those things on the other side. Yeah. And it's just my head, you know, it's just like, it was like a time shift, like poof, you weren't there.
Yes, exactly. I remember reading about Betty Jean Eadie's story, and she was talking about how she had a friend over during the Nazi concentration camp time, and he was being chased by the Gestapo, and they chased him into a bar. And when he turned around to look at them, they were looking right through him and couldn't see him at all. Like he was invisible to them. And whatever that is, I had an experience like that, and I've heard of someone else, Matt Kahn. He had an experience like mine, one morning, like I'm terrified of mirrors for some reason. Like
Why?
at night, like if I go in the bathroom, I won't look in the mirror. Because my grandmother, she saw a spirit in a mirror once, and it terrified her. So when I heard her ghost story, I was like, I was always
See,
scared of.
that my go-to, like in my worst moments, is the mirror. It's like that's how I
Oh
connect to
wow.
God. And I've had my most spiritual connections to God near a mirror or windshield of a car, or I've always noticed there's always some reflective glass involved every time I've
Yeah.
had one of those.
Well, it makes sense. That makes sense to me now, because one morning I got up, went to the bathroom, and this voice, just not me, something else, said, "Look into the mirror." And I looked into the mirror, and instantly my body was filled with that same feeling I had out in the desert. Just like every cell in my body was like carbonated and vibrating, and feeling like nirvana, kind of euphoric and bliss. And when I looked into the mirror, my head was disappearing, and I wasn't scared. And then when I looked down at my arm, because I couldn't see it. I could see the tile on the bathroom floor where my arm was.
You were disappearing again.
Yes. And so later I found out that people have these experiences they call the quickening. And when the spirit world is going at the speed of light, that's why we can't see it. It's a lot faster. I guess I've read some books on spirituality and quantum physics since all this happened, and it makes sense to me that they're going at a faster rate. And when God delivered me from that guy chasing me, about to grab me, that's what happened. I know that's what happened. I think he made me invisible, evaporated me onto the other side of the fence. He folded space, or whatever you want to call it.
Did that change you from being atheist?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Was it
Yeah,
instant,
the night wasn't over.
or you had time to think about it, like what happened, or and come to the
No.
conclusion? Or was it just like?
So after they left, this I got out of the truck and started walking, because I could see a ranch house off in the distance, and I could hear a pretty big dog barking. And when I got closer, it was a domesticated wolf, big, huge wolf. And I mean like 4 or 5 feet tall wolf. And she was herding me over to where a dirt road and a gate that left the property, but I didn't want to go that way. I needed to get to the ranch house that she was protecting. And something inside of me just said, put your dog down. And I thought, okay, I'll put my little dog down. And I know my little dog Zip, he's only 5 pounds, but he's an alpha male. And he did go over and dominate her and start playing with her. And then I asked her, for permission, can I please go knock on your owner's door? And this huge man opened the door and screamed at me. And I mean, what the F are you doing on my front porch 2 a.m? And big, tall man, no shirt on, prison tattoos. He was bald. And I was just like, whose door did I knock on? But what I didn't know is his wife was the nurse at the emergency room. Awesome. And she was missing. She was over an hour late from work. And so he didn't know who I was or what I was doing there. And I was so filled with the joy of God, I thought I have to pretend to be scared, because I have to tell. I said, there are people out here like trying to kill me. And I remember thinking like, okay, stop being in the joy of God and act scared, because he's not going to believe me.
Right.
You know, because at that point I wasn't scared anymore. I had been delivered, and I was just in the rapture, I guess. But anyways, he slammed the door in my face, and I left. And I asked his dog, Xena, I found out later her name is Xena. I asked her to go with me and protect me, because I needed to get to the road or get somewhere else. I needed to get to the highway or find another ranch house. I needed to find help before I froze to death. And I didn't think I could make it without her, because she could keep me warm. By this point in time, I was very cold. I'd been outside for at least an hour and a half or two, because I think it was about 3 or 4 in the morning when the sheriff finally came. But so I start walking away from the ranch, and after a while, I see the rancher coming down towards me in his truck, and I'm scared of him, so I hide, and his dog hides with me. And so then I hear just this voice inside saying, it's time to stop running. Like, he's a safe person. He's not going to hurt you. So
was it the guys, the owner of the dog, you knocked on his door, was looking for you?
Yeah. He's looking for me. And he said, I'm sorry. Like, come with me. I called the sheriff. And I said, okay, only if your dog can come with me. And he's like, yeah, she's my dog. Get in the truck. Because he was scared. He didn't know where these people were that were after me. So we went back in his house, and he explained that after he slammed the door in my face, he had gone and loaded all the weapons in his house. And he had a weapon at every window and every door. And he had big, huge dogs. He'd gotten them out of their kennels. He was just protecting himself. And then he brought me into the house, and the sheriff came, and I had almost like amnesia. They were asking me like, who did this to you? What happened? And I couldn't remember any of their names. Even though I'd known them for over a year, I couldn't remember their names.
It is hard to use that part of your brain, memory of facts, when you are in that other state that you were in.
Yeah, it was really weird.
Like you're in total right brain bliss from where God was with you, and flip you over on the science and mathematics and exam question side is just don't happen.
Yeah. So it was a weird experience. And then the sheriff wanted to put me in the back of his truck to take me to town, and it's like a little metal box, and he's gonna shut me in there. Like, I thought I'd be in the front seat with him, but he was gonna stick me in the back. And it was terrifying to me, because I thought, well, how do I know? Like, at this time, I'm scared of everybody. Like,
you feel like you're now the criminal, that somehow this is all your fault when they stick a victim in the back seat of a cruiser.
Well, yeah. Or what if he's part of the cult?
Yeah.
What if he takes me back to them?
Masons run deep.
Yeah. But so he puts me back there. I figure, like, this is my only ride home. I have no choice. And so like halfway home, I finally start break down and cry. And he's asking me like, are you okay? And I said, I'm in a lot of pain, and I don't know why. And he said, well, I'll take you to the hospital. And
he was just going to take you home.
Yeah, he was going to take me home. Yeah.
What an investigator.
I don't know. Thank God. I just say thank God for Iron County Sheriff. They rescued me and took me home, but he took me to the hospital. Okay. And they took x-rays and said, oh, well, you fractured your pelvis. That's why you're in so much pain. And they gave
you fractured your pelvis. I mean,
yeah.
I'm just like, you know, as investigator, counselor, social worker background, I'm like, look at all the things here that went wrong for you. The blame, the putting the blame, making you feel this is your fault. Just words like that, you know, even if they worded it that way, I don't know. You broke your pelvis, you know. We're very sensitive, victims very sensitive to those words.
Yeah. They had crisis workers in my room. They had a social worker in my room and the sheriff. There was quite a few people, and the doctors and nurses. I mean, there was maybe 12 or 15 people in my room listening to me recount my story, what happened.
Good.
They kept focusing on rape, and I wasn't raped. They never threatened to rape me. This wasn't about rape. To them, they told me that Utah was Satan's holy land.
Oh my gosh.
And that's what they were doing with me out there.
Well, I'm glad you were believed. I'm glad you got the attention this deserved.
Yes. One of the crisis workers that I talked to said that they actually had worked with children who had gotten out of these cults that are out there, and talk about stories like this that happened to me, seeing people murdered. And they said, we just never met the dinner that got away.
Like that little boy was.
Yeah, but he was into it. He was
still participating. But those kids, some of them may have been as he was once participating, not out of choice, but it got to be that way, maybe lifestyle.
Yeah. And the crazy thing is his dad had custody of him because their mother slit their wrists. She slit her wrists in front of the kids and tried to kill herself. And I thought, God, if I was their mother, I would have done the same thing.
Who knows what hell she went through, huh?
No telling what she went through. So then I got home, and I wasn't a religious person or believing in God, but I did have a Bible that I had gotten from a hotel room. And so when I got home, I wanted some words of comfort or something, you know, so I got home and I opened the Bible just to some random place, because I don't know any scriptures or anything. And I opened it up, and it opened to Psalms, and I'll just read it to you really quick. It's Psalms 27, verse 2. And it says, when the wicked, even mine enemies and my foes, came upon me, to eat up my flesh, they stumbled and fell. And I was like, okay, there you go. But that was just the beginning of the trauma. The trauma, I had PTSD from that experience.
But you had been an abused child way before that, correct?
Oh yeah.
This happened to you at what, 47 years old?
Yes. Yeah. And I knew I had PTSD. I couldn't talk about my experiences with anybody because it would just make me physically ill. And
the abuse as well as the spiritual experiences, out of all of it, right?
All of it. I couldn't talk about any of it. And so I
think as abused children, we're used to putting things under the rug because nobody cares anyway. So who would we tell? Why would we tell? I mean, nothing's ever done. Exactly. So we sweep it under the rug. And then we have spiritual experiences. Well, nobody's going to listen to that. I mean, everything under the rug. It's our coping mechanism Under the rug.
Yes. Yes. I was punished for telling. When I told my mom, your husband, I think he's gonna rape me. Like he just acts really weird and tries to touch me and do things to me. She went and told him, and he took me out in the desert and started driving really crazy, like very high speeds. And this is out by Edwards Air Force Base, where I grew up. And he told me to open my door, and he was gonna shove me out of the car. I knew he was gonna shove me out of the car. And so I grabbed onto the grip and just held on to it as
And he's going to tell people you jumped out.
Huh?
And
yeah.
He's going to tell people you just jumped out.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. And he had tried to kill me before. He had tried to drown me in a swimming pool. And that time he did it in front of a lifeguard who was screaming profanities at him and was going to go call the police until my mother came and talked him out of it. And my mother, I was hiding in the locker room. I could hear everything she said. Never once did she ask me if I was okay. Never once did she ask me what happened. All she did was talk this guy down and talk him out of calling the police. And she's very good at it. And so when she went and told him, I wouldn't open the door. And he was punching me in the face over and over and over. I didn't feel any pain. I didn't feel any of it. I was just, inside my mind, I was just like, hold on. But he eventually did go to prison for molesting my little sister. He never really got in trouble for half the stuff he did. No.
Did they interview you? Were you able to tell during her investigation?
No, my mom was there. I never told anything. I never told anything that happened to me.
That they didn't interview you since your sister was?
No.
Should have. They should have.
And the thing is when you're born, like I was born into it, that he wasn't my first abuser. My mom was my first abuser. And she allowed, we grew up in a Mormon household she was very strict. She was like a religious zealot, and was physically abusive to us. And quite a few people in the church had already sexually abused us by the time she remarried. And none of it was ever
in the church.
In the church, yeah.
Church people were sexually abusing you and your sisters, or
and my brother. Yeah. Yes.
How did they get access? Like, come spend the night with my kids or something at the church?
No, my brother was molested by the bishop's son, who took him on a scouting camp out. My sister was sexually abused by the bishop's daughter, who was babysitting us. I was sexually abused by someone in my mom's Weeblo scout, whatever. She was a scout leader.
Has this been reported since to authorities or of any kind?
Oh no. Now there's a class action lawsuit going on with the Mormon Church that they want me to be a part of. I just dread, I don't know why. I'm still very, you end up being codependent and having mental issues from going through all this. So I'm still dealing with.
The rug is very comfortable.
Yeah. And so, and even after my stepdad went to prison for what he did, yeah, they excommunicated him. But as soon as he got back, they rebaptized him. And they told me if you don't forgive him, you can't go to the temple.
Bite me. Who wants to go to your temple? What temple to what? Satanic molestation of children? I mean,
well, yeah, I mean, and they knew what he was. They put him in as a stake missionary. They put him in the scouting program.
how long did he serve?
He was in that church till he died of cancer.
No, how long did he serve in prison?
Oh, 18 months. And that was because my mother begged the courts to let him out. Because
and they took him back.
Mm-hmm. She took him right back.
But I mean, the church, hers one thing, but for the church to allow a convicted sexual molester to be involved in their church.
Mm-hmm.
But okay.
And they had because we were in California, so they had like youth conferences, and during these youth conferences, kids would come from all over the state to stay in our town, and they would stay with the families in the church, and groups of young women stayed with us. And my mom also did daycare. She was a licensed daycare provider, and I am pretty sure that he had sexually assaulted a little boy, because this little boy, all of a sudden, he had to go to the bathroom, and my mom said, well, Bill, go help him in the bathroom. When Bill was done helping this little boy in the bathroom, the little boy lost his bowel control the rest of the day, and he never came back to our house, ever. Never saw that little boy again.
Was your mom able to continue the daycare after he was convicted and back home?
No.
Good.
No. No. She worked in the government. She worked at Edwards Air Force Base.
So how long was your NDEs after this kidnapping? It was after, I take it?
Oh, no. So the two most profound, the one that I was 30 years old, and this one was from sleep apnea, and I basically, yeah, I basically kind of woke up in the, in the void, the black void. I was there, and this darkness attacked me in there, and just, it felt like the life was being squeezed out of me. And
you were an atheist then?
No, when I was 30, I was full-blown LDS.
Okay.
I had been teaching Sunday school for 3 or 4 years.
Okay.
And I mean, I always prayed, like, don't let me become an apostate and lose my faith in the church. And I was very strong and completely brainwashed in it, if you will. But just as I started to feel my strength fading, and I felt my spirit fading, I called out, Lord Jesus, deliver me. And like in my religion, in my home, the way we were raised, that's kind of like Bible thumper speak. Like, we didn't talk like that. So for me to say that was just very weird. But that's what my soul screamed out, Lord Jesus, deliver me. And instantly, that black thing, that dark thing let go of me. And I sat up in bed. And standing next to my bed was a being of light. I couldn't see any features, but it was very tall. It was blue. And like maybe 8 or 9 feet tall. it went all the way to the ceiling next
The
to my
guy
bed.
I just talked to yesterday, exact same thing.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Ha.
Describe it the exact same way.
Ha.
Blue, tall. Mm-hmm.
Yes, yes. Um, and I was like, I was terrified to go back to sleep, you know. So I got up, I went in the kitchen, ate some donuts and thought about things, but I was exhausted.
I'm sorry. Ate some donuts and thought about things.
I did. I remember sitting at the table just eating some white powdered donuts, and I'm like, oh no, I'm not sure what's going on tonight.
I'm sorry. Stress reliever after everything we just discussed, I guess.
Palate cleanser.
Yes. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, it's fine. It's fine. I'm accidentally funny and I kind of enjoy it.
Yeah, it helps.
So I'm like, I'm exhausted. I want to go back to sleep. You know, I'm a busy mom and I'm working, and so I'm like, I need my sleep, but I'm afraid to. But the blue thing is still there when I go back in my room and lay down, and I know I'm okay. So I go to sleep, and the only way I can explain it is like I'm being downloaded with information all night. And there's really no way to explain it because I don't know what I was downloaded with. And when I woke up in the morning, I just knew that I had to leave that Mormon religion. I was done with it. And there wasn't a reason. I couldn't tell anybody a reason. And so I spent that day getting all the Mormon paraphernalia off my walls. Even my Mormon garment, the holy underwear that you wear, I burn it all. And I had a fireplace down.
I'm sorry, you have holy underwear?
Oh, yes.
Mormon holy underwear?
Yeah.
Who come up with that? I'm
Yeah.
sorry. It's just
it's the secrets of the Mormon temple. Yeah. So
because my husband makes a joke. These are his holy underwear, and they're rag, and he's thrown away.
Yeah, you have to wear special underwear. They go down to your knees, and they're like,
What?
yeah, and they're like, you can't wear spaghetti strap shirts or anything because it'll show them.
It's like a long onesie or something.
Some of them are onesies. The men wear a t-shirt, and their briefs just look like regular men's briefs, but they're white and they're longer. They go down to the knees.
Is this a chastity thing? Like if you wear this, you won't be.
No, this is a fear thing that if you wear these, you're indestructible. Like Satan can't tempt you.
Oh my God.
There's a bunch of urban legends about how, this bullet hit some guy in Vietnam, but his temple garments.
Oh, good Lord. Sorry. All right.
I know.
Okay, I'll try to be quiet. Continue.
But I thought it
I might roll my eyes, but I'll be quiet.
I know.
Okay.
So
that was your first NDE. Was the void, and then the spirit came, and you knew you had to get out of the Mormon church.
Yes. Yep. And then about 2 weeks later, my husband, he's like, I noticed all your garments are gone. You're not wearing your garments.
Is he Mormon at this point?
Oh, yes. Very. He went on a Mormon mission for 2 years in Atlanta, Georgia. And, he knows Bible too. Whereas I never studied the Bible in the Mormon religion. I only read their Book of Mormon. So, so he wanted to know what's going on. And I said, I don't know what to tell you. I'm just done. And I had taken a Post-it note and written, "Thank you, Bishop, I'm done," and stuck it on my Sunday school manual and left it on his front porch because I didn't want to discuss it. I was just done. And I wasn't going to go back and teach Sunday school. And my husband said, we live in Utah. and that all the judges here are Mormon, and I'm going to get these kids and take them away from you. And I'm going to bring up your past of being abused and being a teenager, like runaway and all this stuff. And he's just threatening me. And I said, okay, how about if we go to therapy together, some kind of counseling together? And he said, as long as it's an LDS counselor, I'm fine. I said, great, because I thought at this point, I'm about to lose my kids and my husband's going to divorce me. And so I asked around, I looked in the yellow pages, I found a therapist that was LDS that lived really close to where we were. So we go over there, and I'm not going to say his name just to protect his identity, but we get over there, and we tell him what's going on, and he looks at me and he says, Tina, you can go home. I'm going to spend some time alone with your husband. I'll bring him home when I'm done with him. And I was like, okay, sounds good. So I go home, and 5 hours later, he brings my husband home, and they come in, and my husband says, well, I'm leaving the church first because I don't want the family blaming you for it. And then the doctor, he's a licensed clinical therapist, he's a doctor, psychiatry, starts explaining to me how he is a covert operator. He helps people deprogram and to get out of the church. And out of all the therapists,
you got a break.
I don't know. This is how God worked in my life. So, so we left together. Our parents, my mom accused me of joining a cult. And she worked with my ex-husband now. My husband's
because you left the LDS?
Mm-hmm.
What did you join when you just left?
Nothing.
Okay.
No. I've never joined anything. So his parents and my mom were talking to family law attorneys. They were going to try to get custody of our kids. And so we just, this was like right when 9/11 happened.
Just to keep them in the church?
Yeah. Yes. And so I told my husband, I said, you just need to quit your job and cash out your retirement, and we can move. We can leave the state. And so that's what we did. And that's when 9/11 happened. And like kind of coincidentally, if we hadn't done that, my husband would have lost his retirement, because everybody lost their retirement after 9/11. And
thank God for that voice, your blue spirit.
Yep. And we moved to Texas, and like my dad, I hadn't seen since I was 5 years old. He had retired to Tyler, Texas. And I didn't know a lot about my dad because he left when I was so young, and my mom hated him. She wouldn't talk about him with me. So I never knew my dad's name was William Tyler, but everybody called him Tyler, and I had named my son Tyler. and I didn't know why my mom was so mad at me for that, but she's like, why Tyler? And I'm like, that's my son's name. That's why it feels right to me. But so we moved to Texas. But after we moved back to Utah, because my husband and I went through our journey in Texas, and we decided most likely we were going to get a divorce. So we moved back to Utah. And we were separated, we were separated. So gosh, what was I? I must have been around 35 when I had another near-death experience. And this one was not pleasant. When I went to sleep, everything was, I was visiting a friend. I was sleeping down in her basement with my daughter in the bed with me. And when I went to sleep, I instantly went into another life. And I was fully aware of myself as Tina in this life. That's what was different about it. There wasn't any, I didn't identify as the person in that life. I identified as both. Like, I knew myself as both. And I was in a pyramid, and I was in black robes, and I was an initiate, and they were going to initiate me. And I knew that, like, this had been agreed to at some point in time. I knew this was going to happen, and they put me in a room and sealed me in for 1,000 years in complete pitch black darkness by myself. And I felt every single second of that 1,000 years. My mind bent and broke and shattered and rebuilt and bent and broken and shattered and rebuilt. I can't explain to you what 1,000 years feels like when you're all by yourself in complete pitch black dark.
Why was that done?
I don't know. Initiation to what? I don't know. I don't know. And when I woke up from that, I was in trauma seizures. My mind couldn't reconcile with this at all. I was not okay.
What's a trauma seizure like?
It's very painful. It's almost like when you're scared and you start shivering, but it's more intense, and it would start at like the tip of my fingers and roll through me down to the tip of my toes, and it felt like a Charlie horse.
Did those wake you up, these trauma seizures from what?
Yeah.
This NDE?
And I couldn't walk. My daughter had to drag me to the toilet because I was going to wet the bed. I woke up, I had to pee really bad. And I was bedridden for 6 months with these trauma seizures.
Were you taken to the hospital? I mean, was this under doctor's care or?
Oh, no, I did. Yeah, I did go to the doctor. They put me on some stuff for the seizures, but it didn't work. And I didn't tell the doctor what happened. Wasn't going to tell him, well, the last 1,000 years I just spent locked in a room.
I woke up to start having these.
Filled in a tomb.
I mean, you get it, right? That in your textbook somewhere? Sorry.
One time when I got locked in a tomb.
So how did you go to becoming an atheist before the kidnapping? From this age of 35, you've had all these experiences, 2 NDEs, but at 47, you're kidnapped and you're atheist. What happened in there?
The pyramid happened, and I started questioning reality. And I just—
You mean the pyramid in the second NDE?
Yeah.
So the second NDE caused you to lose faith?
Yeah, I went completely atheist. I had no idea what that was about. And if I could spend 1,000 years like that. And I didn't call out for God or Jesus to deliver me from that, because it's like I'd already agreed to do it. It's something that I agreed to do. And I don't remember agreeing to do it. And I still don't know why I did that.
Have you talked to anybody about that and tried to explore what that is?
I mean, I have talked to I try to talk to my therapist about it, but he's like, well, you know, we really can't do anything with bad dreams. You know, those happen. So, because I've had since then, I've had EMDR therapy, and I've had
NDR,
EMDR therapy for PTSD.
induced. What is that stand? That
EMDR therapy. I'm not sure what it stands for, but it's
it's the eye movement therapy.
Yeah, rapid eye movement, and they have
and it's induced. Is it the I NDER, the induced? Shoot, I know this, and I can't think of it.
They do rapid eye movement.
Is it out of Dr. Botkin? Alan Botkin? Is he the one that created that? Is that the same one I'm thinking of? No,
I'm not sure.
Okay.
A lot of the veterans are using it.
Yeah, that's what it is.
But they have like these little machines that you hold on to, and they do binary beats and vibrations. I've done the rapid eye and I've done the binary beats. So I've gotten EMDR therapy for it, but when I try to talk about, and I've had 2 different EMDR therapists, when I try to talk about it with them, that I don't think they get it, that it's significant to me.
I got Dr. Alan Botkin's book.
Uh-huh.
If it's the same thing you're talking about. And it's that, and I don't know why right now I can't think of the name. It's induced something. And in the back of it, it tells you step by step how to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And so I brought my husband out of the kitchen one day and I said, let me try this on you. And my husband, his brother at 5 years old died of leukemia. Okay. And we've hardly talked about it. We've hardly talked about him with his parents, hardly talked about it. It's a sore subject. You know, they lost a child at 5 years old years ago. And as I'm doing these eye movements and then doing everything exactly how they told me to do it, I noticed something over here, the corner of my eye, and along the wall, suddenly I'm watching this guy, like maybe 17 to 20, like young adult, but he looks like American Indian. And he's running through this high wheat and there's beautiful blue sky in the background. And as he's running, he turns and smiles at me and turns back and continue running. And I'm not saying nothing. I'm like, what? And I look at my husband and he's got tears coming down his eyes. And he's seeing something else in his mind. He don't know what I just saw. We haven't talked about it yet. But I look at him, he's got tears coming down his eyes and he goes, that's my brother. I'm like, what? And he just saw his brother. He says, I have not been able to remember what my little brother looked like until just now. Mm-hmm. We both saw him, but in different ways. Yeah. And so I went to my husband's mother and I'm like, what did Jeff look like, his brother that passed? I said, did he look like the rest of you? Because they're really white complected people. They've got these crystal light blue eyes. And this isn't what I pictured as their family. And she said, I said, did he look kind of Indian? And she says, yeah, he was darker complected and had dark brown eyes. And I'm like, I mean, they all have the dark brown hair, but I did not expect, I could have not made that up in my imagination. And I was like, I saw him. Yeah. And ever since then, I had a little bit of connection. When his mom got ill, it was like he was guiding me and saying words, what I needed to do. And one day I walked in, looked at her leg. She says, look what I did. I fell. All it was a bruise. And out of my mouth come wound care. You're going to need wound care. And I'm like, where did that come from? And wouldn't you know, something happened inside that bruise. It opened up real big. And I was taking her to wound care every day. And then they were coming home to home health and stuff and packing this wound. And I never said wound care, those words in my life. Oh, wow. And just things like that. I was always there to help her. So I get that. I get that I've always said what those initials mean, and I don't know why it's just escaping me right now. But yeah, I had the book. I even emailed Dr. Alan Botkin, and I said, I have a knack for this, and I know you need to have a master's degree, and I just have a bachelor's. But can I come to the weekend trainings? And because I just got a knack for it. And he said, no, you have to have a master's degree, and we can't have people that's not certified and blah, blah, blah. I'm like, well, you know what? I can do this on my own. And I've had friends ask me, would you come do this? And about my dad, about my mom. And I'm like, Not yet, maybe later, but just not now.
Yes, I understand that. Yeah.
Because I take these people on.
Yes.
Now, if I
Yes.
go do that, I'm going to be taking them on, and I'm going to hear they're going to be telling me stuff, and I don't want to deal with that.
I know. I've had the afterglow too, and I don't know if you call it like psychic medium or whatever, but I do see and talk to people who are not in this realm that we could see here.
And
So
these things we can't go around talking about. I mean,
no,
we got to live in
it's word of
reality.
mouth. My daughter just told, she would tell her friends, my mom, she sees dead people like the Sixth Sense movie. But
So you see
oh yeah,
spirits? Has this
yeah.
been since you were little, or did this come after NDEs, or?
No, it's been since I was little. Yeah, I saw my daughter when I was 8 years old. That's when I first tried to commit suicide, when I was 8. And I call myself a suicide junkie because I tried and tried and tried and tried. But it's not like I didn't try. I got better at it. And the last time that I tried to commit suicide, I took nausea pills. I took
How long ago was that?
Oh, this was shortly after the pyramid near-death experience. It was within a year of that.
And that's been some time ago.
Yes, this was in 2006 was the pyramid near-death experience. But I took a bottle of alcohol, I took a bottle of Valium, and I took nausea medication. And I went out on my deck in the dead of winter during a blizzard because I thought one thing out is going to kill me. I'll freeze to death, I'll overdose, I'll choke on vomit, something. But God had other plans for me. My landlady happened to be a psychic intuitive, and she came over and found me on my deck, and she took me to her house, which was next door to mine. And I woke up in her bed with her doing Reiki treatment on me, and she says, "I know what you did." But so that was the last time, because I thought, okay.
Well, when you were kidnapped and suddenly that pen light was in your hands, and then suddenly you were invisible, and where did she go? They couldn't find you. And you're here for a reason.
Yes. And it was like I was so stubborn to accept that. Very stubborn. And what's interesting about that, when something was guiding me through that experience where those people were trying to kill me, I got to know my next door neighbor after all this happened. And
by the way, was those people charged or anything?
Oh no, they got to the sheriff before me and filed a missing persons report. And they said that there had been an argument in camp and that I had walked off, and they didn't know where I was. So the sheriff was already out there looking for me.
They bought that?
Yeah. They said it's your word against theirs.
There's such thing as going to trial.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now, as a victim of a crime, I realized that maybe I should have gone to a different agency, because that was the sheriff department. Maybe I should have gone to the police.
Well, you have another opportunity. I know this didn't have to do with the LDS at that point, correct? You was already out of there by then.
Oh yeah, I was way out of there. Yeah.
Because these people had nothing to do with LDS, right?
No. Well, okay. The thing is, LDS are basically a Freemason religion. They are.
These people were Freemasons.
But they were Freemasons. They weren't Mormons. They were just that.
Okay. Yeah. So this wouldn't fall under that lawsuit they're talking about. Anything
no. No. But but I was getting to know my neighbor, and we were talking about our spiritual experiences because she had childhood trauma, and sexual abuse in the church and stuff like that growing up. So we were talking about those things, and she started telling me about how at night she gets taken to different places in her dreams. And one of these nights, God woke her up and told her that he needed an angel, and would she be an angel for somebody? And she said yes. And she was taken out to the desert and was shown this woman being hunted by people that were going to kill her and eat her. And she's sitting here telling me this story.
And she didn't know yours?
No, she didn't. And she said she heard the woman asking God why this was happening to her. And she said, when that woman started asking that, I said, yeah, God, why? What is the purpose of this? Why is this happening to her? And God said, you will get that answer, you know. And after she's done telling me about this, I said, well, this is going to sound weird, but I'm that person, I'm that woman. And this was like my next door neighbor. We lived in the same apartment building. It was very weird.
That's validation.
Now, this is something new. Yeah, it's weird. But it's validation. And okay. It was validating, it was validating to her too, because she didn't know. And she said, what answer did you get when you asked? And I said that I'll never doubt God after this. And I won't. I can't. How could I?
Yeah. Awesome. Awesome. Well, we're out of time. I'm surprised the recording hadn't stopped on us. I said it for 2 hours. So thank you so much for being brave and telling your story. I know what kind of courage it takes and what you have to go through to get to that point.
Yes.
Where you're able to. And congratulations for being there to that point. We made it. Yes. We can sit here and tell it and we can laugh. So that's that is cause for celebration. What's that?
I said, I feel like I know you. We could talk for hours.
Right. So thank you very much, Tina. And I'll talk to you later on Facebook, okay?
Wonderful. Bye-bye.